Hi, this is Sam Winkworth from Evolution, fitnessandnutrition.com and samwinkworth.ning.com, and today I have fat loss expert on the line, Mr. Brad Pilon. Brad is a nutrition professional with over 8 years experience working in the nutritional supplement industry, specializing in clinical research management and new product development. Brad has also completed graduate studies in nutritional sciences, specializing in the use of short-term fasting for weight loss. His trademark book, Eat, Stop, Eat, has been featured on national television and has helped thousands of men and women around the world lose fat without sacrificing the foods they love. Nutrition is pretty much Brad's life, and I'm delighted to welcome him to the call today. Brad, welcome to the call.
Thank you, and thanks for the great introduction.
No problems. Looking forward to learning a little bit more about Eat, Stop, Eat and your whole nutritional philosophy. Why don't you start off a little bit about explaining about what intermittent fasting is, how you came up with the idea, and maybe a little bit about how it differs from other diets out there at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, intermittent fasting is a style of fasting that really revolves around the concept of just taking a break from eating every once in a while. So the term fasting gets thrown out, and people automatically think about these, month-long, periods of not eating and not drinking. So really, what it is taking a simple break from eating. I spent 7 years working in the sports supplement industry, working in the sort of the bodybuilding niche of, multiple meals a day, tons of protein, that sort of thing. And after working in sort of the bodybuilding industry, specifically working in clinical research, I got the bug to go back to school. So a couple of years ago, I left the industry and went back to study nutrition at a graduate level, really looking at nutrition and human metabolism. My core concept was I was going to just go back to school and get the background I needed to write my nutrition book. And it would have been like every other nutrition book, a series of rules you had to follow, specific amounts of macronutrients, specific ratios. But I needed a place to start. So I thought, there's no better place to start than the absence of nutrition or fasting. What I do is I do a quick review, discover all the horrible things that happen to you when you're fasting, and then, move on and develop my awesome diet. And it was a bit of a surprise to me when I started reviewing papers on fasting and realized that, one, there is a lot of research in the area of fasting, and two, most of what we believe in the fitness industry about how we need to eat or how we should eat is largely based on myth and isn't really supported by research. And specifically, most of the things we thought about eating and thought about fasting specifically were actually false. So it was from that sort of realization that I focused my research on the metabolic effects of short-term fasting, and from that's how Eat, Stop, Eat was born.
Sure. Okay. So we know about intermittent fasting being good for weight loss. That's its prime. Is there any other benefits to intermittent fasting?
Absolutely. What we're really interested in right now is the concept of longevity, or prolonging human life, and more importantly, prolonging the part of your life that's got a high quality. There's a lot of research going on right now in terms of caloric restriction or eating less to live longer. And one of the things we're starting to look at in animal research is the fact that you may not have to eat less every single day. Intermittent fasting may be a way to allow you to eat the foods you like in the amounts you like, while still reaping the benefits of living a calorically restricted lifestyle. So that's one of the big benefits we're seeing right now, is not only is it a simple, easy way to lose weight, but there might actually be a ton of health benefits, including life extension.
Sure. Okay, no problems. Just explain your fed and fasted state for us, if you could.
Absolutely. Well, fed state is, realistically, considering the fact that a lot of us have been told to eat every 3 or 4 hours, and most of us don't get enough sleep. We go to bed late, and then we get up early to get to work. Fed state is where we spend most of our time. It's highly dominated by the hormone insulin. And in the fed state, what we're doing is simply digesting and trying to deal with the calories from our food. So most of the fed state involves trying to relocate calories into storage. In other words, most of the time we're slowly building our fat stores up. The fasted state is completely different. We now don't have calories from food in our system. And so this state of our metabolism is dominated by growth hormone, which has kind of been misnamed because the minute I say growth hormone, everybody thinks about getting taller or bigger. But growth hormone tends to dictate a metabolism that's geared towards releasing calorie stores from your body, mainly from your body fat, to be used as a fuel. So intermittent metabolic state, fed or fasted, is really determined by the fuel source. If the fuel is coming from your food, as if you just ate, well, then you're in the fed state. But if the fuel is coming from your body stores, mainly your body fat, well, then you're in the fasted state. So being in the fasted state is a good way to get rid of body fat by using it as a fuel.
Sure. I think it's fair to say that a lot of people in this day and age are spending too much time in the fed state. So what we're saying is you're spending too much time in the fed state, your insulin levels are always going to be up. If your insulin levels are always going to be up, but then your body fat levels are always going to be up. Is that right?
Absolutely. The way we're sort of set up now, it is a stressful time. Like I said, most of us go to bed really late. We get up very early. And right before we go to bed, we eat. And the very first thing we do when we get up in the morning is eat again. So we spend all of this time taking in calories, and with no real time to sort of burn them off again. So intermittent fasting is really just a way to kind of reset a balance, where you're still eating, but you're also taking small breaks so you can get back in the fasted state every once in a while. I think the majority of us probably do get into the fasted state while we're sleeping for a couple hours. What I'd like to see is a couple people just, trying to balance it out. So we're not always fed, we're not always digesting, we're not always trying to deal with calories from our food, whether it's just burning those calories specifically or storing them if we've eaten too much. It's really just balancing the two different metabolisms in the two different states.
Sure. Okay. I read a real interesting email from you, actually, Brad, about Pavlov, the man behind some of the most famous scientific experiments. Basically, took people in the picture, he took a group of dogs and rang a bell every time they were fed as an eating experiment. Just talk a little bit about that for us, if you could.
I love it. Okay, so this experiment is sort of a classic experiment. In North America, this is one we all learn about in the very first high school science class you have. And what Ivan Pavlov did was his original research was on conditioning. So every time a dog was fed, he would ring a bell. Do that over and over again to the point where he could ring a bell, and even though there was no food present, the dogs would salivate. And so you're kind of told, well, that's a perfect example of conditioning, and that's it. You're left at that. But the real, amazing thing that Pavlov proved is that the dogs were conditioned to an intense desire to eat. That's what the bell summoned, right? They knew over and over again the bell meant food. So when they heard the bell, even though there was no food present, no food smell, no food sound, anything, they had an intense desire to eat that caused them to salivate. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people right now. I think most of us have never really felt true hunger. I mean, we've never gone to the point where we've been going days and days and days without food. But we've had an extreme desire to eat. And a lot of that is conditioned. It's conditioned by cues in our life, whether it's people we eat with, certain times, certain stresses, certain places, that instantly tell your brain that this is the time we should be eating. So really we're just like Pavlov's dogs. So conditioning, or when you've taught yourself to be hungry or taught yourself to want to eat, is one of the main things that's driving you to eat in this day and age, especially if you're eating every 3 or 4 hours. If you just had a large meal, and then 2 hours later, you have a desire to eat something, that's not because you're hungry. That's a conditioned response to some cue in your life.